I'm gonna get started now. So I've got my flour. I'm gonna start by measuring out my flour, and I'm gonna move my computer. Got this little shelf right here. Okay, we'll get the white balance worked out. Let's see if this helps too, maybe. Okay, that's a little bit better. So I'm gonna start with my flour and my measuring cups. So what we want is 3 3/4 cups of flour. So I have my 1 cup, half cup, and quarter cup. And you know, if you're a big time fancy baker, you might be using a scale and measuring things by weight rather than volume. But I'm not that fancy yet. So 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, 3 1/2 cups, 3 3/4 cups. Okay, sweet. We've got the bread, the flour all doled out into the bowl. And now we're gonna add some yeast. For yeast, we want to add 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm gonna dig into my yeast here and kind of like sprinkle it around in there so it's kind of even. 1.5 teaspoons. Okay. And then I'm gonna add my salt, which is gonna be 2 teaspoons. And by the way, the salt is generally a little bit better if it's like a finer grain rather than a coarser grain, because it spreads out more evenly throughout the dough. So we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, and then once I get all those dry ingredients in there, I'm gonna mix them around. And just kind of like lightly, the texture of the flour is very nice. It's soft and kind of cool. I'm gonna spread all of those ingredients around in there. And then I'm gonna add my olive oil. And I'm gonna do 5 tablespoons of olive oil. It's a lot of olive oil, but it's good. And I'm not like an olive oil snob, but we do get like a cooking olive oil and a finishing olive oil. If you're into that sort of thing, I would add your finishing olive oil to your bread. If you're not into that sort of thing, regular olive oil is just fine. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I got that in there. You know, try adding other stuff if you want to. Add whatever you want. Cool. So I've got that all set, and now I want to add water. So for my water, I usually do, how much is it? About 1 2/3 cups of water, which is about 13 ounces. So I'm gonna fill that up. I forgot something. Water, filtered water.
So I'm assuming the temperature of the water doesn't make much of a difference?
As far as I know, it doesn't, but usually I try to do like room temperature.
Okay.
You're gonna let your dough sit for a while, so if it goes in cold or hot, it will eventually like settle down some. But I also like I don't really know too much about yeast, but like I am thinking like I don't really want to disturb the yeast, so I wouldn't go too hot. But I don't know if that's true or not. I might just be making that up. So I'm gonna put my water back now. Okay. So now I'm gonna pour in my water, and I pour it in sort of evenly, do like a swirly thing. And then I'm gonna start mixing it in the bowl with my hands. I don't put flour on my hands. This is the way that the person who wrote the book, Richard Burtonette, taught me to do it. It's gonna feel sticky, but adding extra flour to your hands or to your workspace is going to make the bread have more flour in it, which can make it sort of like less spongy and risy and soft and more like a brick. So we're going for the pleasure of the fluff in this loaf right now, not the utility of the brick. Okay, so pleasure over utility right now. Actually, synthesis of the two is what we're going for. Pleasure and utility. So here's my water. Pouring it in. Okay, and then I'm just kind of like getting my hand in there and mixing it up. Yeah, and it's gonna be squishy and sticky. But the flour feels very nice. It has a nice tactile quality to it. I can kind of like smell the olive oil right now, which is also pleasant. And you know, there are other types of flour too that will give you different qualities of flavor and texture and stuff like that too. So I'm using like white bread flour. And that's not going to have as like savory or deep of a flavor, say as like rye flour or whole wheat flour, different things like that. I also generally, you know, I do get flour. I avoid flour which is bleached. So I'm just not into the idea of eating bleach. Maybe that's just me. What about you guys? Bleach or no bleach?
I like bleach.
Flour.
I like white bread. Tell me what you want.
What's bleach out there?
I really like Wonder Bread. If you like, well, I can't eat it anymore, but when I used to be able to eat it, you could like wad it up into a ball. It's so like, I don't know, there's something like really gross but delicious about it.
Yeah, I eat a lot of things that are gross but delicious. I'm okay with it at this point.
All right. So,
speaking of, thank you, Kai, for bringing me Peeps.
see this, guys? So it's starting to get really like stretchy, and I can't like I feel so much of a comparison between bread making and mold making, of like getting the proper mixture of materials to get the right sort of like quality that you want for the thing to work. So this is a lot like mixing plaster, mixing silicone. But yeah, see, it's nice and sticky and stretchy. Are you feeling the same thing, Lauren?
What do you think?
It looks good.